Hi, I'm Dave Maynard, and this is the first session of my video autobiography. I am a father to some of you, I am a grandfather to some of you, and I don't know what I am to the rest of you. But the reason I'm doing this is because when my dad and my Uncle Speed would get together, like on holidays at our house, they would always talk about what life was like growing up with each other.
Yeah.
And I found that so fascinating.
Yeah.
And I said, and this is back in the 80s before they had computers, but I remember saying to myself, you know, I'm going to get a microphone and a tape recorder, and I want to tape this because I will forget this later on, and I don't want to forget their life experiences.
Yeah.
Well, that never happened.
Yeah.
And I kind of kick myself now. And so I kind of thought, hey, even my own kids don't know some of the things that I've been through, so why don't I do that myself, but now I can do it in a video format. So that's what a lot of these sessions are going to be about. I will start out by saying, I'm Dave Maynard. My dad is Robert Maynard. My mom is Muriel Maynard. My brother is Tom Maynard. He is the only sibling I have, and he is about 2 years older than I am. I was born, on August 20th, 1949, and you were born?
October 25th, 1947. I was going to tell him 1907, but that's a little stretch.
We first lived in Highland Park, which is a city that is surrounded by Detroit.
Yeah.
And we lived on 327 Highland Avenue.
Yeah. In the upper flat.
In the upper flat, yeah. I don't remember a whole lot from there because we moved when I was pretty young. And we moved to my dad's old house in Detroit.
Where he had grown up.
92 East Parkhurst.
6 brothers and sisters. And
yeah.
And they all went to Greenfield Park Elementary.
They all went to the same elementary school we went to with the same principal.
Mr. Allmendinger was my dad's principal, and he was our principal.
Yep.
He was a great guy.
Yep.
Very likable guy.
Unfortunately, in my last year, which was the 8th grade, he retired and we got a new principal, and nobody liked her. But anyway, everybody loved Mr. Allmendinger.
Yeah, absolutely.
We lived in 2 houses. We lived at 92 East Parkhurst, which is where my dad grew up, and then a few years later, in 1957, we moved into 87 East Parkhurst.
Which was right across the street from it, and there was a vacant lot where at one time a house used to be, and we used to play baseball in there, and we wound up breaking a window or two. So, we could go down to the Greenfield Park Elementary and play at the school ground down there, and that was great.
Half a block away.
So it was nice. You had a baseball field a half a block away.
And a lot of times we would be playing until it was so dark out. I remember when we would play catch, we would have to throw the ball above the trees to see it.
So you could see it.
So, Parkhurst was, I would say, lower middle class neighborhood. When we were at 92 East Parkhurst, we had houses on both sides, and the houses are only 6 to 7 feet apart. I mean, it was
they're very
close together. You couldn't have an argument with your wife and not have somebody hear it. You know.
It was one of those situations where the nice thing about it is you had neighbors. More so than when we moved out to suburbia. We could have made more friends than we did in the suburbs, but the houses were basically a little bit farther apart. They were nice neighborhoods. They were brick houses that we moved out to when we moved into Livonia. And yes, we had a few friends. Chuck Dumas we got to know, and but for the most part, we had a lot of people our age in the neighborhood, and that was the key. We had a lot of classmates up and down our block.
Yeah, and like Tom said, when we moved across the street, yes, the one house was only 6 to 7 feet away, but the other, there was no house there. It was a vacant lot, and
Yeah.
my dad finally bought it from this one guy, and so it became ours.
Mr. Birdsall. Yeah.
But we had one of the things about that house, 87 Parkhurst, is when you went downstairs, you went into a rec room. Well, if you didn't go into the rec room at first, if you turned left, that's where we had the washer and the dryer. But if you walked down that little hall and then you turned right, there was a room there that used to be an old coal room. Well, it wasn't coal because nobody...
Coal room, and I think they changed it to a fruit cellar at one time.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
And, you know, after a few years of living there, I went to Mom and I said, can I have that room as my own? And she said, sure. So I fixed it up with all my stuff. I made my model cars down there and everything. Well, one night, I was in the 10th grade, and my mom and dad were out for the evening at Eastern Star, and I thought my brother was at home. So I was fine as long as I knew somebody was in the house. And I'm down in this little room, and I'm writing a story for an English class, and it's a really scary story. It was my own invention. And, you know, I'm a paper boy in the story, and I deliver a paper way out of town, and it turns out there was a mad scientist out there trying to reanimate dead people, and he saw me, and he's coming after me. You know, I mean, well, when you went down this little hallway downstairs, when you got to the point of where you turned to go into my room, there was a light there. Well, the switch was broken, so you just had to turn the bulb to turn it on, which I had done. So I'm in my room studying, and all of a sudden, right when I'm getting to the scary part, the light goes out. And I knew at this point my brother wasn't in the house. I was all alone. And so I'm figuring, oh no, somebody's coming after me, they're gonna kill me. So I did the dumbest thing in the world. I opened the door and I looked out into this dark hallway and I said, is anybody there? Like they're gonna answer me and say, yeah, and we're here to kill you, you know. So I got up enough nerve, I guess, and I walked down to where the light bulb was, and I reached up and I turned it and it went on. So all that had happened is when I turned it on, apparently it had kind of unscrewed itself a little bit. So I was really relieved, but oh man. And then when Tom came home, I told him about it, but anyway, then we moved out to Livonia when I was a senior in high school, and you were already in college at that point.
Yeah, that was 1966.
Yeah. And as we're driving out there, when Mom and Dad took us out to show us the home.
The name of the street was Loveland.
Loveland, yeah, which, you know, of course, some of us really liked, but I don't know if we thought we were Casanovas or, well, I live on Loveland. Where do you live, sweetie?
We would have liked to be.
Yeah. But when they're driving us out there for the first time,
Yeah.
when we got out there, I thought, Dad's inherited $1 million. I mean, it's a brick home. It's on a quarter of an acre. I mean, all the other homes are really nice. It's got a sweet lawn to it, which of course we had to mow, but I mean, I had my own bedroom. Up until this point,
Yeah,
he and I were in the same bedroom
yeah, we slept in bunk beds. I got the top bunk, of course. And
for a while.
Yeah.
For a while. Most of the while.
Yeah.
Because he was bigger than I was. He was tougher than I was. No. But yeah, and so I had my own bedroom. You had your own bedroom.
yeah.
And wow, I mean, it was, you know, incredible. But I guess in all of this, I guess the thing that I learned about myself is I am not a big city person. I wanted so much to live either in the country or in a small town. We had a cousin who lived in a small town a couple hours away.
Matter of fact, 3 cousins, the 2 girls and a boy.
Yeah. And every time Tom and I went up to see them,
Greg and Judy.
yep. Every time Tom and I went up to see them, we would Tom and I would both say, "Oh man, you guys are so lucky living in a small town. Everybody knows everybody. Oh, it's so cool." And they would look.
Every house in there had sizable yards. Now
Yeah.
it was Portland, Michigan, which was 19 miles northwest of Lansing. It was a small town, and it had somewhere around 4,000 to 5,000 people.
Yeah, that was it.
If that.
Yeah, it was a farming community.
Yeah.
Every time when we would say that to them, they would say to us, "What do you mean lucky? We want to live in a big city." And every time they would come down to see us, they
Yeah.
would say, "Oh man, we're in a big city. This is great." And Tom and I are like, "What are you happy about? You know, it's a big city, you know."
It's there, you know.
But I learned that I was a small town sort of a guy, and it took me a while to get into a small town.
Okay.
Especially when I was single. Of course, you want to be in a big city when you're single because that's where you meet people.
Right.
But after Patty and I got married, eventually we made it out to the country where we are now. So that's a lesson I learned in all of that. And that's about it for this time.